Welcome, fellow Stardust. Are you ready for a scare? Today is finally the day. I am so excited to see Jordan Peele's third horror feature film, starring Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer, two powerhouses in Hollywood. If you're new here, my name is DeRay, aka Rainbow Fright, lover of all things dark, creepy, and weird. And for today's video, I'll be doing a dinner and a movie review. So before I give you my thoughts on Nope, I'll be heading on over to Torchy's Tacos. And I'm super excited for Torchy's too, because it's been about 2 years since I've had it. So let's go get some food, and afterwards, let's talk Nope. That totally lived up to the hype. It was so damn good. This sci-fi horror film has given us a brand new type of alien. And I'll remain spoiler-free throughout the entire video. Things I'll be talking about will be stuff that you saw in the trailers or what you've read in movie descriptions. And along with this being a sci-fi horror, we've also got a little touch of a Western. Y'all, what was I thinking? Shooting a movie review in a car in the middle of a Texas summer with it turned off. I had it turned off in order to record good audio, but it was absolute torture. I was sweating too much and my phone kept overheating, so I'm gonna finish the rest of the review in my studio, but I'm still gonna be using my iPhone. So let's keep this thing going. So along with having a sci-fi horror film on our hands, this movie also has some sprinklings of a Western. In one of the trailers, Keke Palmer's character tells us about how her great-great-great-grandfather was essentially the star of the first motion picture. This 2-second movie was a series of photos that were taken when a jockey was riding a horse on a track. And the reason why this all even came about in the first place was because there was a debate as to whether or not a horse had at least one leg on the ground when running. Some people didn't believe that all 4 legs came off the ground when running, which is just absolutely hilarious in hindsight. So they set up a a bunch of cameras that were triggered when the horse went by. And when these photos were put together, it clearly showed that the horse did have all feet in the air when running. That tidbit isn't in the movie, but that's just a little bit of film history for you. But to talk a little bit more about that, Jordan Peele took this little bit of history and made it a part of this story, having Emerald and OJ, played by Daniel, be descendants of this jockey, who was also a horse wrangler and ranch hand. Emerald goes on to talk about how Black folks aren't really associated with cowboys or that Western lifestyle, and it's simply because it wasn't depicted in media or in Hollywood, but there were plenty of them. And Jordan Peele highlights this discrepancy and shows us how this family, who's been wrangling horses for generations and generations, have just as much a place in this world as the next white person. So we get some really cool Western vibes in some particular shots, especially when Daniel is riding around on the horse. You get some really beautiful dynamic shots that follow him and some really cool aerial shots that just take your breath away because of the landscape as well. And to add to this list of sci-fi, horror, Western, you can also add comedy. Jordan Peele has finally brought his two worlds together for one awesome experience. His other two horror films were more thought-provoking and dark, nowhere near a comedy. But I've loved his comedy for years. I've loved him on Mad TV, of course, Key and Peele, and he also produced The Last OG, and he's just done all kinds of comedy. And so when Jordan Peele decided to make his first two feature films horror, we were all kind of surprised because we didn't know he had it in him. And before Nope, he had proven himself twice that he knew horror. He knew how to build tension. And now for this third film, he's still able to build that tension while also being able to give us a bit of comedic relief. And it's just so exciting to see. I hope we get more comedy horrors from Jordan Peele, as well as just straight up horror without the comedy. And Keke Palmer is just the perfect choice for this type of movie. Both she and Daniel have worked with Jordan Peele multiple times, and he knew exactly what he was doing when he chose these two. Keke Palmer's timing is just insane, and her energy just gets you so excited. You want to be her best friend, or you want to be her, or you want to be with her. She is just a force, and she's going to be so huge in Hollywood, much more so than she is now. She's got the title of the youngest talk show host in history. She's also a singer, and she was also named one of Time's most influential people in the world, as well as Jordan and Daniel, all in different years. I already knew she was destined for big things when I saw her in Akeelah and the Bee and Medea's Family Reunion. Medea's Family Reunion is one of the best Medea films. There are so many Medea movies now, and I haven't really watched any of the latest ones, but some of the first films were just really, really great. They had you laughing and crying at the same time, and Medea's Family Reunion was one of those. And since those breakout roles, she's just been making all kinds of moves. And although Daniel's character, OJ, was a bit more sad and solemn than Keke, he still bounced really well off of her. His eyes were expressive, and you could really see the sadness, fear, and determination. And despite his woes, he was still able to keep a bit of a sense of humor. We also had great performances from Stephen Yeun, as well as fairly new actor Brandon Pereira. Stephen's character, Jupe, is a really fun one, and Brandon's character, Angel, fit nicely in with siblings Emerald and OJ. And actually, I forgot to tell you what the premise of this movie is, just in case you haven't seen the trailer or read a description. Basically, siblings OJ and Emerald have inherited their horse ranch, but because they are struggling, they start to sell their horses. But since their father passed 6 months ago, there have been strange occurrences, and they notice something lurking in the clouds. And boy, what's in those clouds is quite the treat. This movie is really a spectacle. You have to watch this one in the theater. Go to an IMAX theater if you're able to. I actually bought my IMAX ticket not realizing that this was shot on 65mm in IMAX format, so I kind of got lucky with that. This is a really beautiful film. Jordan Peele's writing and directing is just so precise and on point. He has this way of having different visual elements throughout the film that end up tying into the story in a unique way. For instance, the colorful carnival flags or the airmen that dance about at car dealerships. These things turn out to be visual cues, but we don't know that until later in the film. And throughout the film, we're given bits of another story that don't necessarily fit into the story of Emerald and OJ, but once we get toward the end, they start to intersect a little bit. And that other story features Stephen Yeun's character, Jupe, who has suffered through an incredibly traumatic experience, and we see how this has affected him toward the end of the film. There aren't many locations in the film, and the locations that are there are in pretty close proximity to each other. So when these stories didn't connect right away, I was okay with it because I knew somehow it was just all going to come together. And I don't want to make it seem like these are two completely storylines happening on their own. No, OJ and Jupe do speak to each other at the beginning of the film, and Jupe's carnival is just right down the street from OJ's ranch. But for a minute, we wonder why we're getting bits of info about Jupe and his past when he's just a guy that OJ sold a horse to. So that story is also a fun little ride on its own. And the music was just a whole lot of fun. There was this mix of epic music like you would get from Jurassic Park or even Star Wars, and music that was more modern and more familiar songs, music that got you pumped and wanting to dance a little bit. It was really just a perfect mix and fun soundtrack. Jordan just really knocked this one out of the park. I wanted to give this one a 5, but there were a couple of things that didn't sit well with me, and they might be a little bit nitpicky. One of the things is there was a time that I thought somebody would die and they didn't, and I don't know if I'm just taking it too seriously and not allowing this to maybe be a funny moment, because maybe it was supposed to be funny, but to me in that moment when I watched it, I just was like, come on, really? You know they would have been dead. You know, but that moment and a couple of others are why Nope will be getting 4.5 rainbow skulls out of 5. And definitely see this one in the movie theater, even if it's not IMAX. Well, thank you for joining me today, fellow Stardust. I appreciate you being here with me. I'll be back next week with a reaction video with Strange Monkey Reviews. We'll be watching Sist, and right after the premiere of that reaction video, we'll be doing a live chat. That will be on Friday at 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So, if you haven't already, go ahead and hop on the Rainbow Fright Freight Train and hit that subscribe button along with the notification bell. That way you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. And if you liked this video, please hit the like button and share it with a friend. I hope I see you next time. Peace.